crossing over the road here to follow this footpath, or indeed bridleway, which hopefully takes me to new buildings, generally regarded as the end point of any uncontentious part of Wansdyke. While I'm walking along here, I thought I'd do a book plug. Hopefully you can see that. This is Alan Soldat's book, The Quest for Wansdyke. I've been reading this recently, and he actually has a sort of video summary of it as well, so I'll put a link, still probably pointing the wrong way. I'll put a link to that. Any of you interested in Wansdyke, it's an incredibly thorough examination of all of the research that has taken place over the years on Wansdyke, none of which really agrees with any of the other research, but he's tried to come to some sort of conclusions at the end. There isn't, it's still a mystery. I don't think there's any clear agreement between those people in the know about exactly who built it, when they built it, and why it was built. But he does come to two most likely scenarios at the end, and we'll discuss those in a little bit. But I think that's you know, if you are interested in that local history, relatively new book, I think. Probably the most thorough examination of the subject matter you'll find. Well, I've just been mildly electrocuted. I'm fairly sure, according to the OS map, I am following the footpath along this field boundary here, but I tried to climb under a bit of, looked like fairly innocuous wire fence. In fact, got a bit of a jolt there. Good. Maybe use the footpath over that side. Somewhere up here, Wansdyke crosses this field. A bit hard to tell the difference between what's just a field boundary and what is part of Wansdyke, but I think we have a little bit of an embankment here, and then over the other side a ditch. It must be that. It's a bit confusing from the OS map, but there we go. We are back to what is nearly the eastern limit of any discernible bit of Wansdyke. Somewhere around here the footpath crosses over, according to the map. It's kind of hard to discern where exactly. It obviously doesn't get a lot of footfall here. Yeah, there is something fairly old sense I get from this sort of linear copse that's formed along the top of the embankment of the, I keep saying the Wansdyke, of Wansdyke. Feels quite venerable. While I'm clambering through the undergrowth here, trying to find the footpath. Maybe down there, I don't know. Thought I would quickly talk about the bang over there, it's disconcerting. The two possible hypotheses. Don't want to spoil Alan Soldat's excellent book. I mean, I recommend you, sorry it's upside down, I recommend you just read the book. The two possible hypotheses Alan Soldat came to in his book. The first one is that it was immediately post-Roman occupation, so in 410 AD, was it? I'm sure Allotment Fox and or WC21 Productions UK Limited will correct me on these dates. When Roman occupation sort of officially ended, there were still Romano-British tribes, for want of a better word, that stuck to the sort of administrative regions of the former Roman colony, again for want of a better word, in Britain, and they probably consider themselves Roman, as Alan says in his conclusion. And the Belgae were one such tribe, again for want of a better word, probably led a very Roman lifestyle, and with the collapse of centralized Roman rule, those tribes, or sort of those regional areas of former Roman Britain, were sort of left to fend for themselves, and they probably ended up with quite a lot of warring between their boundaries. So the Belgae controlled some of this area, and then to the northeast of here were the going to get this confused with the Queen Mother's favourite drink, Dubonnet. Dubonnet? another tribe. So one possible theory is that the Wansdyke was a defensive earthwork between those two immediately post-Roman tribes. So it would have been built probably, based on that theory, sometime in the 400s, in the 5th century AD. I'm briefly leaving Wansdyke for a bit. One of the downsides of this bit at the eastern extreme, where it sort of fizzles out, is that there isn't actually much open access land, unlike the you know, the more well-maintained sections around you know, over the Pewsey Downs, where you can just roam free. So I'm attempting to be a good boy, follow the public footpath, although it's not particularly well marked here, and just go to the sections that are accessible from that public footpath. So that means for now doing a kind of horseshoe shape to get to the next bit, or the final bit, the new buildings, and we'll talk about the other theory over there. Okay, so the other side of that roughly square-shaped copse over there is new buildings, which I assume is a farmhouse or something, and this is the end of the Wansdyke. I mean, you could again just, I keep saying the Wansdyke. This is the end of Wansdyke. Again, you could confuse that for just a field boundary. That is where it peters out. If you can see the forest for the copse, the wood for the trees over there, but beyond there is Severnake Forest. And this here is the end of the line. It's funny, it really does just stop. Clear embankment still there, and just a bit of a remnant of a ditch. I guess that's sort of this side, and then follow it along here, and then just flat fields. So I think I read in Alan's book that there is possibly a sort of a shadow that you can see of some remnant of the earthwork in the small bit connecting between here and Severnake Forest. From aerial photography, you can just about see a dent in the land, so it may have continued to there. And one of the theories is that you know, if the Wansdyke, if Wansdyke continued beyond into Severnake Forest, that they may have just used wooden palisades or, you know, sort of barricades as a defence there. But in terms of anything that can fairly definitively be called a part of the there it is again. In terms of anything that can definitively be called part of Wansdyke, it ends there. Sarsen stone in there. I forgot to mention the second hypothesis that Alan comes to in his book, that I'm still holding upside down, is that it was Wessex versus Mercia. So this is several centuries later, in the 700s, possibly King Cynewulf of Wessex built a defence to ward off the Mercians. Again, I think, you know, roughly similar boundaries as the at least that stretch of the boundary between the Belgae and the Dubonnet and Gin tribe. So and that would actually put the construction at roughly the same time as Offa's Dyke. So Cynewulf was in the latter part of the 700s, the 8th century. But who knows? Very difficult to definitively say, surprisingly, whether it dates from the 5th century or the 8th century, but they currently seem the two most likely origins. Just for the sake of completeness, that's new buildings over there, which looks kind of abandoned to me, sort of abandoned farm or abandoned set of farm buildings. Look at that, lovely, the last of the season's snowdrops alongside this track here. Definitely coming to their end now. Must be spring. In fact, tomorrow is the spring equinox, so, you know, ideally I would have been staying overnight in the area and going and observing the equinox at Avebury, but alas, once more life getting in the way. It's a bit difficult to maintain the illusion of being in an ancient landscape in the face of a grit bin covered in graffiti. Arriving in the centre of Marlborough now, being greeted by the Gregs across the street. Called around a few taxis and to my surprise found one willing to come pick me up and take me back to Pewsey, which is great if that actually materialises. So I guess probably time to say goodbye. Hope some part of that sort of daytime excursion made for interesting viewing combination of history and my sort of poor man's Keith Floyd imitation with alfresco cooking. I quite enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.